Comedian Akaash Singh released his 2024 stand-up comedy special, Gaslit, 2 weeks ago as of the recording of this episode. And it is already up to 1.5 million views on YouTube. Absolutely round of applause. Amazing feedback on that comedy special. Akaash Singh, for those of you who don't know, is a stand-up comic, obviously, but he's also one half of, or I actually shouldn't even say one half. He's a co-host of the Flagrant podcast alongside Andrew Schultz, Mark Gagnon, and Alex Media. Flagrant is a dope podcast. If you guys aren't familiar with it, definitely check it out. It's probably one of my favorite podcasts. Not probably, it is one of my favorite podcasts. I would say probably second, maybe, behind Rogan's. But I definitely appreciate all the laughs from it, as well as the different perspectives of Schultz, Akaash, Mark and Alex, and the rest of the crew over there on Flagrant. They all have their unique personality reflected within the questions that they ask guests, for example, while maintaining an awesome chemistry amongst all of them. And that is definitely dope to see. But yeah, Akaash put out this latest comedy special on YouTube. I'll link to it in the episode notes for you guys to check it out. It's absolutely hilarious. He opened it up with a traditional Indian dance, which was cool. That was definitely fun to watch and cool to see, whenever anybody's, bigging up their culture, where they're from, their roots. And the special was just really funny, really good writing, precise writing, had some really good misdirects that makes you anticipate the punchline that much more. Akaash has a way of being really animated, in my opinion, and maybe animated is not the right term, but I can't think of a better one right now. But he's very, because animated makes me think of more like Jim Carrey and physical humor type of thing, and it's not that, but he's more spunky, lively, and I like that about his comedy, and that definitely shows within this set as well. He's recently-ish married, I think a couple years ago maybe, and if I'm not mistaken, he's in his 30s, mid to late 30s, I would say. So definitely within my generation, or close to it. I'm 39, so I can definitely appreciate a lot of the content that he speaks of within his special, related to marriage, starting to pay more attention to politics and culture as we grow older and start becoming washed. Now let me stop. I can definitely appreciate his more centered type of view, his more objective view on both sides when it comes to politically. He was born and raised in Texas, grew up comedy-wise in New York, and I believe still lives in New York. So his POV is definitely framed, I would imagine, by those two experiences. And he has a large chunk in this special of liberals versus conservatives, which was definitely fun to watch. Like a cosign on a lot of it, if not all of it, in terms of him highlighting how I felt and feel about a lot of those topics. And he was essentially saying, and literally said, that us normal people, which is most of us in the middle, are just being gaslit by the fringes of both political parties. So we're being gaslit, meaning, felt psychologically, made to feel crazy, essentially, by the both extremes of each party, of the Democratic Party on the left and the Republican Party on the right. And it's for most of us in the middle, from a gut instinctual type of feeling, we look out to both of those sides like, nah, you motherfuckers are the ones that are crazy, not us. Like, some shit just isn't normal. It has a hilarious joke about some people in Texas believe that they can catch gay as if it were like catching a cold or something like that. And he acts out this part of the bit where he's just groping his stomach and he's like, oh shit, I feel terrible. Fuck, I gotta sit down. I must have sat next to a homosexual in the subway or something. Which again is meant to highlight that fringe, ultra-conservative thought process of some folks on the right. And then while staying on that gay theme, flipping it back to liberals on the left, who have, in my opinion, an equally crazy thought in saying and thinking things like this piece of the bit where he says, liberals in New York just be like, oh, you think because a dude fucks another dude, that means he's gay? It's like, yeah, motherfucker, that is the definition of gay. But he highlights these two polar opposite but equally crazy situations, and I appreciate shit like that. I appreciate honest comedy like that. He also had a bit about genders and saying how he looked it up at some point in time, I think pre-pandemic, and there were 30-something genders. And then he looked it up 2 years later, post-pandemic, there were 72 genders. And as of, the most recent count, there's 118 genders. And he goes off on this whole rant of saying that essentially 72 or 118 or whatever of anything is too much. We should just pick a number and stick to it. It's not too, he agrees, gender dysphoria and different, folks from different paths in life or just wired differently, that all exists. Okay, agreed. You can concede that, but 118, come on. And then when some of the crowd oohed and ahhed or whatever, he was like, all right, anyone who's offended, just name 9. He spoke a lot about family and being married, and as comics do, just men in general, even in just like ragging their wives a bit. And he was saying how dad jokes, like the term dad joke, which are just corny jokes, exist because moms ruin the dads and take away them being funny, just with all the judgment and criticism constantly thrown their way. And he highlighted an important point, I thought, that all men really want in life is a vacation. And by vacation, what they mean is for the wife to go on a trip and give them some solitude. Is that the guys over at Flagrant are definitely innovators of just this whole comedy medium space, namely with Andrew Schultz being the first one or one of the first ones to really break the mold of comedians only chasing the large streaming platforms and platforms in general, like HBO's, Netflix, Comedy Central, Amazon, etc., to put out their specials. He was the one that really broke the mold and figured out how to put content out more for free in not just like podcasts, but actual stand-up comedy in the form of clips and on YouTube, clips on social media to drive ticket sales, which is the bread and butter for most comedians, if not all. Well, most. And they definitely continue to innovate within that space in, putting out comedy specials on YouTube for free, monetizing through there, to the point where many, many, many other comics, including Akaash, for example, have followed suit with putting their specials out through YouTube. And famously, and by famously, I mean here within the Spun Today universe, as I speak to the half a dozen of you listening to this, I inducted Andrew Schultz into the Spun Today Goats Doing Goat Shit list many episodes ago, related to the last special that he put out, where he wound up getting a deal with one of these platforms and then wound up putting up his own money to buy it back from them so that he can put it out himself. I forget the platform it was that he used, but definitely look up the Goats Doing Goat Shit playlist of mine on YouTube and search for the Andrew Schultz one. And he essentially put the special out on pay-per-view form on demand for a couple of weeks, made his money back threefold, I believe it was, as he broke down on the pod one day. And then after the fact was able, since he retained those rights, able to put it out on YouTube again for free and able to monetize that way. And had so much of an impact on the following that the next time around for his next special, I imagine all the large streamers are going to come back around, but with a much larger bag this time around, and make it make sense for him to go on Netflix or Amazon, etc. And I say all that to say that this is the ecosystem that Akaash is coming from, right? And an intricate part of. And they continue to innovate. And something very innovative that I saw for the first time, that I saw here in Akaash's special, was that the special had a podcast style promo. It was presented by Prize Picks, which is one of the sponsors of Flagrant and other podcasts. But it's the first time that I've seen a sponsored ad within a comedy special, which was very interesting to see. And again, innovative. And I'm sure other other comedians that put out their content themselves will follow suit. There are already, when you put out your special on YouTube, the way that you monetize it, there are ads sprinkled throughout, but having a presented by and an ad read essentially by the comedian himself is a whole nother layer of monetization that they figured out, and that Akaash did with this special. And they were good in my opinion, in that by the time you realize it the first time that's what it is, it's halfway through. So at first you kind of, is this another bit? What's going on? Because he's kind of still on stage, but you could tell something's different. And he speaks about Prize Picks Then, oh shit, this is a promo ad. So it kind of takes you out of the comedy special a bit, but then it goes right back into it because it's not like a long 2-minute promo. And he also made it funny in that he had his mom in one of the drops and had his wife, I believe, in one of the others. I do remember thinking though that it does, I think one is good. Obviously, you know, whoever's, you know, presenting and sponsoring art, they're going to want 2 or 3 or maybe even more for an hour-long special. But I think more than one takes you more so out of the special. Maybe in the beginning before it starts, maybe one mid-roll and one at the end type of thing. So that aside from the interruptions that are already coming from the YouTube ads, adding this one more within the confines of the special itself makes more sense just in terms of retention and stuff like that, I think. But again, that's just my opinion. Regardless of that, it was done tastefully, and more importantly, from a business standpoint, such a dope layer that they figured out of monetization to add to stand-up comedy specials that comedians put out themselves on YouTube. So hats off to Akaash and team for figuring that out. And again, for putting out such a cool special. Akaash Singh's Gaslit, available now on YouTube. I'll link to it in the episode notes for folks to check out.